At the wedding venue, Robert Adams's ex-girlfriend, Jessica Hayes, sent a congratulatory video message. It wasn't a blessing, but the news that she was pregnant with his child. He actually canceled the wedding on the spot and brought Jessica Hayes back to our house. Sarah, I just made a mistake that all men make, but I have to be responsible for Hayes. If worse comes to worst, she can have the baby and you can raise it. You won't have to go through the pain of childbirth and can become a mother directly. How about that? My heart shattered. I threw the pregnancy test result I was holding into the trash can and drove straight to the hospital. Doctor, please terminate the pregnancy inside me. This unwanted child. Ms. Miller, are you sure you want to terminate the pregnancy? The baby is very healthy, don't you? Want to ask the father's opinion? The doctor furrowed their brow slightly, confirming with me again out of a sense of responsibility. I gave a bitter smile. No need, the baby's father is dead. Half an hour later, I got off the cold operating table. It was a minimally invasive procedure, so I could walk right away. After all, I had lost a part of myself. I felt a bit weak, but managed to drive myself back home. As soon as I reached the front door of the house, I heard laughter from the living room inside the house. Hee, Robert. Who do you think the baby inside me will look like? You or me? Of course, like my sweet Hayes. You're so beautiful. The baby won't be any less. Their sickeningly sweet voices made me nauseous. I almost vomited right there. I gathered all my strength and kicked open the front door of the house. Their laughter stopped abruptly. Seeing my hostile appearance, Robert Adams shielded Jessica Hayes behind him and glared at me with a scowl. What are you doing? You're acting like you've swallowed a gun. If you scare Hayes and cause her to go into premature labor, I won't forgive you. Robert Adams's handsome face twisted, his eyes full of rage as he looked at me. My heart clenched tightly, holding back the tears that threatened to spill. I spoke each word slowly. Robert Adams, let's get a divorce. Robert Adams froze for a moment, even as he stared at me with a cold, hard face. A hint of cold mockery appeared on his lips. You want a divorce just because of an accident where I got Hayes pregnant? I told you. I just made a mistake that all men make. What successful man doesn't have a few children out of wedlock on the side? I didn't say I was going to touch your position as my wife. What are you going crazy about? Besides, Hayes said she didn't want to have the baby at first, and she doesn't like raising kids. I told her to have this baby. Once it's born, it can be yours. You won't have to suffer at all and can become a mother just like that. What are you so unhappy about? After all, you haven't gotten pregnant in the 8 years we've been together. This child is a gift from God to you. Robert Adams's outrageous words actually made me laugh from anger. I let out a scoff. Yeah, 8 years with me and I didn't get pregnant, but you got her pregnant in one go. It's hard to say if it's me who can't get pregnant or you who can't get anyone pregnant. And whether that child is really yours is also up for debate. You Sarah Miller, you bitch. You want a divorce, huh? Then get out now. Don't you dare come crawling back begging me. I didn't say a word. I went upstairs, grabbed a few personal items, and walked out. Robert Adams, I'm willing to leave because I find the two of you disgusting and you're dirtying this house. But don't forget, we bought this house together. I'll get back my share. Just then, Jessica Hayes suddenly got up, walked over, and grabbed my hand. Sarah, don't be like this. Can't we talk things through properly? I didn't even move. Jessica Hayes suddenly shrieked, threw her body backward, and fell heavily onto the floor. Smack. Before I could even react, Robert Adams slapped me hard across the face. Sarah Miller, you poisonous woman. Take your anger out on me. How could you lay a hand on a pregnant woman? The force of Robert Adams's slap was immense. It made my vision go black, and I almost collapsed. Weakened as I already was, I managed to stay on my feet, but felt a gush of warmth between my legs, followed by a steady trickle of blood that stained the cashmere carpet beneath me a bright red. If I said I didn't even touch her, you wouldn't believe me, would you? My left hand covered the stinging pain on my face where Robert Adams had hit me, while my right hand cradled my lower abdomen. I asked, my voice trembling. A flicker of surprise crossed Robert Adams's eyes, but then he glanced at my lower body with malicious amusement and sneered. All right, Sarah Miller, I really didn't expect y'all'd go this far to gain my sympathy. Putting on such a realistic show. What? Did you stuff a blood pack in your pants, trying to fake a miscarriage for me? I didn't even know you could get pregnant. T-esque. Robert Adams's gaze was full of contempt, disdain, and disgust. That single T-esque pierced my heart, leaving it riddled with holes. I couldn't have imagined, no matter what, that the man I had loved deeply for 8 years would treat me this way when I was at my most vulnerable. What are you standing there for? You scared, Hayes? Get down on your knees and apologize to her. Robert Adams yanked at me violently, trying to force me down in front of Jessica Hayes. I used all my strength to remain standing. This was my last bit of dignity. Jessica Hayes looked at Robert Adams tearfully, pretending to pull on his sleeve. Don't be like this, Robert. Even if Sarah is just acting to get your sympathy, it's because she cares about you. It's my fault for affecting your relationship. Maybe I should leave. You are not leaving. I'm the man of this house, after all. If anyone's leaving, it's her. Sigh, look at you. You're being bullied like this and you're still so understanding. It really makes my heart ache. While those two scumbags were flirting, I forced myself to drive to the hospital. Luckily, the doctor said there was nothing seriously wrong after the examination. They also repeatedly stressed that even with a minimally invasive procedure, I needed to keep my spirits up and avoid any physical or emotional stress during this time. I knew I couldn't tell the doctor too much, so I just managed a bitter smile and agreed. Walking out of the hospital in a state of disarray, standing bewildered outside the hospital, I realized that after 8 years, other than the house Robert Adams and I had worked hard to buy together, there was nowhere for me to go in the vast city of Fairview. It wasn't that I didn't have friends, but most of them weren't single, and I couldn't just show up out of the blue and ask to stay. I thought about staying in a hotel, but then I thought, why should I have to when I own half of the house? With that thought, I went straight to the parking lot, got my car, and drove home. Robert Adams, since you're being so ruthless, I won't make things easy for you either. To my surprise, as soon as I entered the house, I heard Jessica Hayes' coy voice coming from the master bedroom. Robert, isn't it a bit too much that you kicked Sarah out and are letting me sleep in her spot? Hey, what's too much about it? I own half of this house anyway. Now that you're pregnant and need to rest, of course, I have to take care of you like the lady of the house. As for her, a barren woman, she should know her place. Bang! I pushed open the master bedroom door and let out a cold laugh. Since when does a mistress who hasn't gotten legally married get to be the lady of the house? Actually, Robert Adams and I got legally married a year ago. We had originally planned to have a wedding ceremony right after getting legally married, but he kept delaying it, using work as an excuse. It wasn't until last month that he finally made time to book this wedding. I never expected his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Hayes, would cause such a scene at the wedding venue. Thinking back now, maybe the reason he kept delaying getting legally married and having the wedding ceremony for so many years was because he still couldn't let go of Jessica Hayes. His excuse that Jessica Hayes' accidental pregnancy was just a drunken mistake that all men make was probably just that, an excuse. My sudden appearance left both Robert Adams and Jessica Hayes stunned. Robert Adams immediately flew into a rage and sneered at me. Hey, I thought you had more backbone. What? You're back begging me after just half a day? Get on your knees and beg me and Hayes for forgiveness. I might even let you live in the basement of the house. Robert Adams, I'm not here to beg for your forgiveness. I've thought it through. I own half of this house. As long as we haven't registered our divorce at the courthouse yet, I am still the lady of this house. If anyone's rolling out, it's the mistress. Robert Adams leaped off the bed. Then let's divorce. We'll go to the courthouse first thing tomorrow morning to register our divorce. But don't even think about making Hayes move out tonight. Sob, Robert. Sarah is right. You are still legally married. Maybe I should leave. Robert Adams pulled Jessica Hayes tightly into his arms and comforted her in a soft voice. I couldn't be bothered to argue with those cheating pair. Not to mention, my bed had been slept in by Jessica Hayes, the mistress. I couldn't stand the thought of it. I turned and went into the guest room, only to find that all my belongings had been piled up there in a messy heap. I pushed aside the clutter and lay down on the guest room bed. Tears instantly filled my eyes. I met Robert Adams at the university entrance ceremony. At the time, he wore a clean white shirt, buttoned all the way to the top, exuding a sense of reserved, almost ascetic, allure. When he sat at the piano and played a romantic piano piece, the melodious piano music and the elegant young man seemed to merge into one. At that moment, he was full of light, and my eyes were full of light as I looked at him. I confessed my feelings to him first. He hesitated for a bit but eventually agreed. For 4 years of university, we had a simple and happy life together, never experiencing the kind of passionate romance seen in TV dramas. I thought that's how all real-life love stories were. It wasn't until after graduation, when his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Hayes, returned from studying abroad, he secretly threw a welcome party for Jessica Hayes. Hiding it from me, I saw a video posted by a colleague from his company, showing him beaming and full of passion in front of Jessica Hayes. Only then did I realize that that was what love looked like. In that moment, I seemed to understand. His love was for Jessica Hayes, and I was just a consolation after he couldn't have her. It wasn't until he came back drunk the next morning. I had a huge fight with him and asked if he didn't love me at all. He didn't say a word. He knelt in front of me and promised he would be responsible for me for the rest of his life. After that, our relationship returned to its previous state of simplicity and happiness, until last year, when he finally made up his mind to get legally married with me. I thought he had completely let go of Jessica Hayes. Now, it seems I was just too naive. I didn't sleep all night, listening to the sounds of intense activity coming from the next room. The next day, with swollen eyes, I went to the courthouse with Robert Adams to register our divorce. Since the divorce was so sudden, the divorce agreement was hastily printed at the copy shop next to the courthouse. Our assets were clear. Joint property included the house worth $30 million and 3 luxury cars worth a total of $10 million. The remaining assets were company shares, which were also pre-agreed upon. Robert Adams insisted on keeping the house and the luxury cars, claiming they were essential living necessities and he needed to provide a stable environment for Jessica Hayes. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I signed the papers right there and asked him to pay me half the value in cash. After registering the divorce, I went home, packed my things, and walked straight up to Robert Adams, who was sitting on the sofa. That $20 million, will you pay by check or bank transfer? Robert Adams was startled. Sarah Miller, are you out of your mind? That's $20 million, not $2,000. You want me to pay now? You signed the agreement at the courthouse, promising to pay the full amount today. I think, since I'm moving out now, there's no need for me to come back before midnight to rush you, is there? Adams Co. was founded by Robert Adams and me for years. Its market value had already exceeded $100 million. I thought, coming up with $20 million wouldn't be difficult for Robert Adams. Impossible. You know, the company has been expanding rapidly these past 2 years. Cash flow is tight. I can't get that much money right now. You'll have to wait. Hey, wait. Your mistress couldn't even wait for us to get divorced before moving in and taking over. I granted you the divorce, and now you're telling me to wait. Robert Adams, have you no shame? You can't pay, huh? Then get out, both of you. I'll sell this house right now. Robert Adams's face turned a deep shade of red. He was so cornered he couldn't speak, veins bulging on his forehead. Just then, a sudden wailing sound came from the entrance of the house. Immediately after, an old woman in worn-out clothes rushed in, stamping her feet, and slapped me across the face. Oh, you jinx. What terrible fate did my Robert have to marry a barren woman like you? This house was all earned by my Robert. You have the nerve to kick him out? I think you're the one who should get out. It was Robert Adams's mother, Barbara Adams, from their hometown in the countryside. It seemed Robert Adams had already told his mother about our divorce. Barbara Adams cursed at me while grinning obsequiously and pulling Jessica Hayes by the hand out the door, as if showing off, or perhaps trying to humiliate me. She deliberately pulled Jessica Hayes and me outside the house and shouted loudly to the neighbors, "Neighbors, come and see. This woman who slept with my son for 8 years couldn't even have a child. Now my son's true love is pregnant with his baby, and she's still clinging on, refusing to leave. Don't you think she's shameless?" The confused onlookers gathered around and started pointing fingers at me. Barbara Adams became even more energized, crying and sniffling. She claimed that this house and the luxury cars were all earned by her son, and had nothing to do with me, and that I was refusing to leave even after the divorce. The neighbors' insults grew harsher and harsher, cutting me to the bone. Robert Adams knew it was all lies, yet he said nothing, letting his mother and the neighbors insult me. I trembled as I looked at this repulsive family. I felt the world spin and my vision went black. The next second, I fell into a warm embrace. A voice full of dominance and indulgence sounded in my ear. "See, I told you not to marry that jerk, but you insisted. Didn't I have to come rescue you?" Hearing that voice, I instantly felt safe. After recovering my composure, I struggled to stand steadily in the man's arms. "David Sterling, why are you here?" You probably don't know, but the news of you being abandoned by that jerk has hit the headlines. With such a spectacle, how could I not come and see? As I was talking to David Sterling, Robert Adams's cold shout suddenly came from behind me. Sarah Miller. What the hell is going on? When did you get involved with this man? What is your relationship with him? I looked at Robert Adams with cold eyes and gave a bitter smile. Mr. Adams, my ex-husband, does that concern you? Since we're in front of all the neighbors, why don't you answer this? You just registered our divorce at the courthouse an hour ago, but the mistress next to you is 2 months pregnant. When did the two of you get together while we were still married? You. Robert Adams's face instantly turned a deep shade of red. Barbara Adams beside him also lost face and started stamping her feet again, pointing at me and yelling curses. Oh, you barren woman. You couldn't get pregnant in 8 years. So what if my son found another woman? Did he have to be childless his whole life because of you? Now Hayes is pregnant with a baby from the Adams family. What reason do you have not to give way? Just then, a delivery person suddenly appeared in the crowd and shouted loudly at me, "Is there a Ms. Sarah Miller here? Your package?" My heart skipped a beat. I immediately waved to the delivery person and signed for the package. While Robert Adams was pulling these stunts, I hadn't been idle either. I had secretly hired someone to investigate everything about Robert Adams and Jessica Hayes. It seemed all the evidence was now in my hands. As soon as the delivery person left, a large number of reporters and onlookers suddenly swarmed in from outside, startling me. David Sterling beside me smiled and gave me a reassuring look. My dear, this is your moment to shine. Come on. It's time to expose the wicked deeds of that jerk and the mistress, and really show them up. I took the documents in my hand, raised them high towards the crowd and the reporters, and spoke loudly. Just now, Mr. Robert Adams and his mother kept claiming that this house and the luxury cars were all earned by them and had nothing to do with me. Everyone, look at these documents. We each own half of the house. The luxury cars are also joint property, and the company. We established it together. And I own 51% of the shares. And these are all the records of Robert Adams illegally transferring company assets to Jessica Hayes's account over the past year. Mr. Adams, you said you couldn't come up with $20 million for the property settlement? It turns out you had already transferred the company's money to the mistress's account in advance, didn't you? That's illegal. And this document here is my and Robert Adams's medical reports. Robert Adams and his mother kept telling everyone that I was a barren woman for 8 years. But my body is perfectly normal. He's the one with low sperm count. He also told me that he got the mistress pregnant due to a moment of impulse and a single mistake. Now, let me show you something else. Saying this, I opened my phone and played a video of Jessica Hayes going for a prenatal checkup with a bald old wealthy man. In the video, Jessica Hayes and the old wealthy man were holding the ultrasound report and smiling radiantly. The old wealthy man was trembling with excitement. Oh, my little darling. I never thought I, Mr. Peterson, would get you pregnant at over 60 years old. You be a good girl and have this baby for me. I promise I'll buy you a house and give you $100 million as a gift. Oh, you naughty old pervert. You kept bothering me every night. No wonder I got pregnant. The camera cut to another video showing Jessica Hayes having coffee with a friend and crying. Woo-woo, that old man dumped me. His wife found out about us and is forcing me to have an abortion every day. She said I won't get a single penny. I'm really at my wit's end now. Chloe, I've thought it through. There's only one path left. I'll get Robert Adams drunk, pretend we had sex, and claim the baby inside me as his, making him the fallback guy. At least he's young and handsome, much more useful than that old rich man. The camera cut again, showing multiple videos of Jessica Hayes maneuvering between various wealthy men to find a sponsor for herself. It was only through these videos, bought at a high price by hiring a private detective, that I realized that Jessica Hayes, the highly educated and talented woman claiming to have returned from studying abroad, was actually so vulgar and depraved. It turned out that while studying abroad, she met a handsome foreigner, spent all her money and gave up everything for him, only to find out he was a fraud. She only chose to return to China after hitting rock bottom, having lost everything and burdened with significant debt. Her only goal was to find wealthy men she could deceive and extort money from to fill her financial holes. The videos played one after another. Jessica Hayes shrieked in terror, demanding that I turn off the video. David Sterling protected me closely like a bodyguard, not letting Jessica Hayes get anywhere near me. Robert Adams and Barbara Adams stood beside me, watching everything unfold, frozen like statues. After a long while, Robert Adams finally reacted, with a howl. He kicked Jessica Hayes hard in the stomach. You bitch. Whore. So I didn't even sleep with you that night after all. That bastard child inside you is someone else's. You came to me to trick me out of my house and money, and make me the fallback guy? I'll kill you. Ah, you stinking whore. You're not carrying a baby of the Addams family. How dare you try to make my son divorce and move into my son's house? I'll tear your face off. Robert Addams and his mother attacked Jessica Hayes like a pair of mad dogs, punching and kicking her. Jessica Hayes screamed and begged for mercy. Robert, spare me. Please spare me. I really do like you and wanted to be with you forever. That's why I came to you. If this baby isn't yours, I'll have an abortion. We can get married and I'll have your baby later, okay? Woo-woo, stop hitting me. You're going to kill me. David Sterling and I watched the whole scene unfold with cold eyes. I saw a pool of blood quickly forming beneath Jessica Hayes, so I spoke up to warn them. Hey, Robert Addams, Mrs. Addams, you've beaten the pregnant woman into a miscarriage. Stop it. If you don't stop, you might kill both her and the baby. The onlookers watched this huge reversal, and the focus of their attention shifted. They started watching the Addams family, mother and son, and Jessica Hayes, as if they were a joke. Tsk. I thought the wife had divorced and was still clinging to the husband's family. Turns out it's the mistress trying to take over and force the legal wife out. What kind of man is that? He built his wealth and property with his wife, and he has the nerve to kick her out? Haha. So the baby inside the mistress isn't his after all. That's got what she deserved. Serves her right. That's hilarious. Robert Addams finally stopped. He walked up to me, gritted his teeth, and pointed at David Sterling, demanding an explanation. Put the Jessica Hayes matter aside for a moment first. Explain your relationship with David Sterling to me. I thought back to my past with David Sterling. Actually, I also met David Sterling at the university entrance ceremony. At that time, I was completely captivated by Robert Addams's piano piece. After he finished, I boldly went up and asked for his contact information, and confessed my feelings to him directly via message. And David Sterling was the guy who was sitting behind me and chased after me asking for my contact information after I happily got Robert Addams's number. At that time, David Sterling was wearing designer clothes, tall and handsome, surrounded by a group of girls trying to impress him. From other girls, I also heard that he was the only son of the famous prominent family, the Sterling family, in Fairview. I, on the other hand, came from a modest background. My parents had died in a car accident the year I got into university, and my grandparents, who lived far away, were supporting me through college with their meager retirement pensions. Therefore, the difference in our backgrounds and social standing made me unable to even imagine any possibility with a man like David Sterling. Plus, I heard rumors that an heir like him always had girls around, and any interest he showed in me could only be temporary novelty. Because of my low self-esteem and various complex factors, I simply rejected him directly, saying I didn't like his type. Robert Addams's background was similar to mine. His hometown was in the countryside 1,000 miles away. He had only his mother, who worked the land, raising him with great difficulty and putting him through university. Our similar backgrounds quickly led us to confirm our relationship and get together. But after I started dating Robert Addams, David Sterling never gave up on me. For 4 years of university, he persistently pursued me, writing me love letters, singing love songs, and giving me shockingly expensive gifts. Everyone knew he loved me as graduation approached. He even said that if I left Robert Addams and got together with him, he would marry me immediately and give me a house and luxury cars. He knelt in front of me and vowed that Robert Addams was a jerk, not worth marrying, that I would regret it sooner or later, and that only he was my true destiny. He also said that if someday I found Robert Addams had betrayed or bullied me, I could come to him, and he would drop everything to rescue me. I clearly remember what I said back then. I called him an arrogant bastard who thought he was something just because his family had some money. I also swore that I would work hard to earn the house and luxury cars myself, and that Robert Addams and I would love each other forever, and I would never need him to rescue me. But looking back now, except for earning the house and luxury cars, everything he said about Robert Addams came true. I really made myself look foolish with that promise. 4 years had passed, and we had both matured quite a bit. Robert Addams was now in a suit and tie, refined and well-mannered, no longer the bright young man in a white shirt from university. David Sterling was also no longer the handsome heir who liked to slick his hair back, wear sunglasses, and deliberately act cool. Instead, he had become a low-key, steady, domineering CEO with an astonishing presence. David Sterling held me protectively and sternly in his arms, looking down at Robert Adams, who was half a head shorter than him. As if he were an ant, he spoke calmly. Our relationship, right now, more than friends, not quite lovers, but I believe things will progress quickly. However, I am quite certain that you two are now divorced, and Sarah is a free woman. You're that playboy who hounded Sarah for 4 years in college. Well, Sarah Miller, you really are promiscuous. So you dated and were married to my son for 8 years and 4 years respectively. But you were messing around with this wild man the whole time. No way. You were the guilty party in the marriage first. That house, the luxury cars, and the company's shares must all go to my son. You'll leave with nothing. Looking at Barbara Adams's contorted expression, I was utterly speechless. This old woman didn't know a thing, but she was certainly good at making unreasonable trouble. I sighed and looked at Barbara Adams. Mrs. Adams, is it? And Robert Adams. Sarah has been more than fair to you. If you don't know what's good for you and continue to harass her, I won't hesitate to use my top-tier legal team to fight a lawsuit for her that will leave you with nothing. After saying this, David Sterling looked at me with indulgence and chuckled. My dear, you are a free woman now. I am officially proposing to you. Will you marry me? I gave David Sterling a speechless glare. The onlookers on the scene started cheering and egging us on. Ms. Miller, Mr. Sterling is such a good man. You missed out for 8 years. What are you waiting for? Marry him quickly. At this moment, Robert Adams, with a dark expression, lowered his head towards me. Sarah, I know I was wrong. Jessica Hayes, that bitch, tricked me too. Please don't leave me. We loved each other for 8 years. And we built this career together. Let's remarry, okay? I let out a cold laugh and looked at Robert Adams as if he were a joke. Robert Adams, you treated me with such contempt. 8 years of love meant less to you than a mistress who fooled you with just a few words. You have the nerve to ask me to remarry you? Where do you get off? Yeah, exactly. And you kept complaining Sarah couldn't have kids, but it turns out you're the one with low sperm count. What use does Sarah have for a man like you who can't give her a child? Barbara Adams beside him heard this and her face turned dark with anger. Sterling, what are you talking about? Low sperm count isn't infertile. My son can still have children. Sarah, I can have children. I can. Marry me again, and I'll try my best. I looked speechlessly at this mother and son with such incredibly low understanding. How did I not see back then that Robert Adams's way of thinking was just like his mother's from the hometown in the countryside? No wonder David Sterling repeatedly told me back then that Robert Adams's poverty wasn't financial, but of the heart, and that he would eventually change his mind about me if I stayed with him. I didn't believe him at the time. In fact, after being with him, I gradually realized that in these 8 years, from university to starting a business together, even though Robert Adams lived with me in the city, his underlying small-town thinking was always subtly present. Not only was he fixated on me having a son for the Adams family to inherit the business, but he also held traditional views on heirs, saying I could only have boys, not girls. Even during the initial stages of our business, I was actually the one leading the operations. He could never let go of his male ego, and it was always me who actively sought out clients and signed contracts. Later, when the company's business became stable, he used the excuse that the man should handle external matters and the woman internal, saying he didn't want me to work too hard and made me a full-time housewife. At the time, I was touched by his consideration, but thinking about it now, it was probably just because he was afraid I would overshadow his authority and weaken his position, and even more afraid that I would find out about the shady things he was doing. I suddenly remembered something. I casually took out the pregnancy test result that I had retrieved from the trash can and placed it in front of Robert Adams and Barbara Adams. You two, remarriage is impossible. But since we're divorced, there's something I no longer want to hide. Actually, I was also 2 months pregnant before, but yesterday, after I found out Robert Adams brought the pregnant mistress home, I went straight to the hospital and had an abortion. After all, I couldn't let my child's father be a jerk who kicked us out of the house for a mistress. So, you actually had a grandchild, but he died in the hospital's trash can. Saying this, I threw the pregnancy test result directly onto Robert Adams's face. Robert Adams's face turned green on the spot. Barbara Adams beside him shrieked, grabbed the pregnancy test result, and burst into tears. Oh, My precious grandson, how could you have such a cruel fate? You were only 2 months old when you were aborted. You were the only son of the Adams family. Sarah Miller, you bitch. How could you be so cruel? You were carrying a baby of the Adams family and you didn't even say anything? You went to the hospital and had an abortion on your own? You owe me my grandson. Barbara Adams wailed and lunged at me, trying to hit me. I dodged her in disgust. My body is mine. Of course, I have the right to decide what happens to it. Did your son tell me when he brought his pregnant mistress home? The people in the neighborhood started shouting indignantly. Hey, you old fool. Have you no shame crying here? Take that useless man-son of yours who can't have kids and get back to your hometown in the countryside. Don't bring down the value of our neighborhood with your wailing. What bad luck. Exactly. Now we all see clearly. Didn't Adams bring this upon himself, being tricked by the mistress? You deserve it. Adams cheated during the marriage. You should leave with nothing and get out. Saying this, some neighbors who had just returned from buying groceries took out eggs and vegetable leaves from their bags and threw them at the Adams mother and son. In an instant, they were covered in mess, looking utterly pathetic. Just then, I finally noticed Jessica Hayes, who was still bleeding and had fainted. I frowned, picked up my phone, and dialed 911. Hello. I'd like to report an emergency. There's a pregnant woman bleeding here, possibly suffering a miscarriage. Please send an ambulance. After that, I glanced at Robert Adams and Barbara Adams and dialed 911 again. Hello. This is a police report. Someone here has beaten a pregnant woman, causing a miscarriage. Also, my ex-husband, Robert Adams, has been illegally transferring company assets. Please come here. David Sterling also let out a cold laugh and made a call. Hello, Lawyer Robertson. I have a divorce property dispute case for you. No matter how much you charge in legal fees, I just want the guilty party to leave with nothing. After David Sterling and I hung up, all the onlookers cheered loudly. Robert Adams and his mother finally realized the seriousness of the situation. Robert Adams was the first to drop to his knees in front of me with a thud, clutching my thigh tightly. Sarah, please don't leave me and don't sue me. I know I was wrong. Let's remarry. I'll transfer the house and luxury cars to your name. Yes, and the company too. I'll give you all my company shares, okay? David Sterling walked over, his face cold, and kicked Robert Adams away from me with one foot. He even carefully wiped off my pant leg. Hey, I'm Sarah Miller's next husband. Don't you dare dirty my wife's pant leg. After saying that, David Sterling looked at me and smiled. See? That jerk knows he's lost. So he's kneeling down and licking your boots like a dog. My dear, you've learned your lesson once. You won't fall for it again, right? I smiled and held David Sterling's hand. No, I won't. By the way, I accept your proposal from just now, but you still owe me a grand proposal ceremony. Yes, Mum, my dear wife. The police arrived quickly, handled the situation on the spot, and took Robert Adams and his mother away. An ambulance also arrived and took Jessica Hayes, who was covered in blood, to the hospital. All the facts were clear, and the evidence chain was complete. Robert Adams and I had 2 lawsuits. One was the divorce property dispute. The court, considering my absolute contribution to the business and Robert Adams's misconduct during our marriage, ruled that Robert Adams should leave with nothing. The other lawsuit was about Robert Adams illegally transferring company assets to Jessica Hayes's account behind my back as the major shareholder. Robert Adams was sentenced to 10 years in prison for embezzling over $30 million, a huge sum that couldn't be recovered. And all his personal assets were confiscated. The day the verdict came down, Barbara Adams suffered a heart attack on the spot and died outside the courthouse. Robert Adams was her only son, and he was now in prison. Out of consideration for the 8 years I had loved Robert Adams, I handled her funeral arrangements. As for Jessica Hayes, not only did she miscarry and lose her ability to have children, but she even died tragically on the street a week later under unexplained circumstances. I guessed it was retribution for all the people she had deceived in the past. A month later, David Sterling made up for it with a grand and elaborate proposal ceremony. He was so eager that he even combined the proposal ceremony and the wedding. I officially became the young mistress of the Sterling family. Adams Co., which Robert Adams and I had founded together, was also changed to Miller Corp. And merged into Sterling Group, managed by me. On our wedding night, I put my arms around David Sterling's neck and asked him why, with so many socialites and women around him, he insisted on marrying me. An orphan with different backgrounds and no family background or connections, David Sterling was quite honest. He said he grew up in high society and knew all too well how unpleasant the private lives of those so-called socialites were, and how empty-headed and boring they themselves were. He didn't want to spend his life with people like that. The moment he first saw me at the university entrance ceremony, I was as pure as a glowing angel, instantly illuminating his dark and confused world. From that moment on, he decided he would only marry me in this life. He said that given the Sterling family's status in Fairview, they didn't need to consider marriage alliance to consolidate family interests, so he was determined to marry someone he truly loved. He also said that he had actually known for a long time that Robert Adams wasn't as honest as he appeared. He knew about Robert Adams's ex-girlfriend, Jessica Hayes, back in college. He also knew that while Robert Adams was with me, he was secretly going back to his village during holidays for blind dates arranged by his mother. He knew that I wouldn't believe him if he told me at the time, so he didn't say anything. Not to mention, after graduation, when Robert Adams and I started a business together, he knew he wasn't capable, and that the real reason he stayed with me was to constantly use my abilities to establish himself in the company, before eventually kicking me out. And I had been foolishly kept in the dark the whole time, and all these years. Even though he was far away overseas, he had always had friends in China keep him updated on me. Even some of the big deals my company landed in the early days were secretly secured by him through his connections. This played a crucial role in helping Adams Co. get off the ground back then. Hearing so much I didn't know from David Sterling for the first time, I was moved to tears. I leaned in and kissed David Sterling's lips. I finally understood what true love was, a willingness to suffer yourself if it meant making the person you love happy. In the past, I had wasted it on a man who wasn't worth it. Now, I knew where to direct it towards the person who truly deserved it.